The moment Derek pushed through the crystal revolving doors of the Grand Sterling Hotel, his hand pressed against Heather's lower back, he was already laughing at something she said. His head was tilted toward her blonde hair, his expensive watch catching the bright chandelier light above them. He didn't see me at first, but I saw him. I stood near the marble reception desk in my tailored navy suit, the one I bought specifically for this moment. My heels clicked against the polished floor as I took 3 steps forward, positioning myself directly in his line of sight. The hotel manager stood to my right, tablet in hand, waiting for my signal. 2 security guards flanked the entrance behind Derek, though he didn't know they were there for him. The lobby buzzed with afternoon activity. Guests checking in, bellhops moving luggage, the soft piano music floating from the restaurant entrance. Everything was perfect. Everything was ready. 6 months of planning had led to this single moment, and I wanted to savor every second of it. Derek's eyes swept the lobby in that casual way people do when they enter expensive places, taking in the luxury they think they deserve. His gaze passed over me once, then snapped back. I watched his face change in real time. First confusion, then recognition, then something that looked like his soul leaving his body. He stopped walking so abruptly that Heather stumbled in her red stilettos, grabbing his arm to steady herself. She looked up at him, confused, then followed his frozen stare to where I stood. "Derek," I said, my voice carrying across the marble expanse. "Welcome to my hotel." His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. His hand dropped from Heather's back as if she had suddenly caught fire. The color drained from his face, leaving him gray under his expensive tan. "Simone?" He finally managed, my name coming out like a question, like he couldn't believe I was real. "Surprised?" I took another step toward them, my heels echoing. "You should be. You've been bringing her here for 6 months, and not once did you think to ask who bought the property last year." Heather's eyes went wide. She looked between me and Derek, her red lips parting in shock. To her credit, she figured it out faster than he did. She took a small step away from him, her designer purse clutched against her chest like a shield. "This is impossible," Derek said, his voice finally working but sounding strangled. "You can't. How did you? How did I afford it?" I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "That's what you're wondering, isn't it? How your wife, the woman you thought had no money of her own, bought a 5-star hotel in the city's most exclusive district." The hotel manager stepped forward, right on cue. "Mrs. Brooks, shall I show you the reservation details for Mr. Brooks and his guest?" I nodded. The manager held up his tablet, turning it toward Derek. "Mr. Brooks, you've stayed here 14 times in the past 6 months. Always the same suite. Always charged to your credit card, which as of yesterday, has been flagged in our system." Derek's face went from gray to red. "Now wait just a minute." "No," I cut him off, my voice sharp enough to slice through his attempt at control. "You don't get to talk yet. You don't get to explain or make excuses or try to charm your way out of this. For once in your life, Derek, you're going to stand there and listen." People in the lobby had started to notice the scene. A woman with shopping bags paused by the elevators. A businessman looked up from his phone. The desk clerk pretended to organize papers while obviously eavesdropping. I didn't care. Let them watch. Let them all see what Derek Brooks really was. "Simone, please," Derek said, his voice dropping to that intimate tone he used to use when he wanted something from me. "Can we talk about this privately? This is embarrassing for everyone." "Embarrassing?" I laughed, and it sounded cold even to my own ears. "You brought your mistress to a hotel 14 times, spent thousands of dollars of our money on her, and you're worried about embarrassment now?" Heather made a small sound, something between a gasp and a whimper. She was looking at the floor now, her face as red as her shoes. Derek reached for her arm, but she yanked it away. "Don't touch me," she hissed at him. "How long have you known?" Derek asked me, his voice hoarse. "Long enough," I said. "Long enough to plan this. Long enough to buy this hotel using my maiden name, which you never bothered to remember mattered. Long enough to have you investigated, to document every lie you told me, every late night you claimed was work. Long enough to protect myself legally and financially." His eyes widened at that last part. "What did you do?" "What I should have done years ago," I replied. "I took care of myself. I stopped trusting you to be the man you promised to be on our wedding day. I stopped believing your lies." The security guards moved closer, not threatening but present. Derek noticed them for the first time. His jaw clenched. I could see him trying to calculate his options, trying to figure out how to regain control of a situation that had never been his to control. "The suite you reserved for this weekend?" I continued. It's been cancelled. Your credit card has been declined. And before you think about making a scene, I should tell you that every major news outlet in the city has a reporter on speed dial, just waiting for me to confirm the story about Derek Brooks, the businessman who used company funds to wine and dine his mistress. That hit him like a physical blow. You wouldn't. Try me, I said, and I meant it. Try me and find out exactly how far I'm willing to go to make sure you never forget this day. Heather spoke for the first time, her voice shaky. I didn't know he was still married. He told me you were separated. I turned my gaze to her and she flinched. That's what they all say, isn't it? And you believed him because you wanted to. You saw the wedding ring tan line on his finger and you chose to ignore it. You took his gifts and his money and you didn't ask questions because you liked what you were getting. I'm not a bad person, she whispered. I don't care what kind of person you are, I said flatly. You're nothing to me. You're a problem that solved itself. But you should know that Derek here has been telling his business partners that his wife is crazy, that I'm unstable, that I'm the reason he's been stressed at work. He's been setting up his exit strategy, getting ready to leave me with nothing while he runs off with you and the money he's been hiding. Heather turned to look at Derek with new eyes. Is that true? Derek said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Get out of my hotel, I told them both. Both of you. And Derek? Check your email. My lawyer sent the divorce papers an hour ago. You'll also find a very detailed accounting of every penny you stole from our joint accounts to spend on her. I want it all back and I will get it back one way or another. Derek's hands curled into fists at his sides. For a moment I thought he might try to argue, might try to fight back. But then he seemed to deflate, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his ruined plans. This isn't over, he said, but it sounded weak. Yes it is, I replied. It's been over for 6 months. You just didn't know it yet. I turned my back on them, a dismissal more powerful than any words. I heard Heather's heels clicking rapidly toward the exit, heard Derek's slower footsteps following. The revolving door spun and they were gone. The hotel manager approached me cautiously. Are you all right, Mrs. Brooks? It's Ms. Walker now, I corrected him using my maiden name. And yes, I'm perfect. Let's go over the plans for the grand reopening next month. I want everything to be flawless. As I walked toward the elevator that would take me to my new office on the top floor, I caught my reflection in one of the many mirrors lining the lobby walls. I looked strong. I looked free. And for the first time in 6 months I felt like I could breathe. This was just the beginning. 6 months earlier I had been a different person. Not different in any way that showed on the outside, but different in the way that matters most, in what I believed about my life, my marriage, my future. I woke up that Tuesday morning in our king-sized bed, Derek already gone for his early meeting. The sheets on his side were cold, which meant he'd left hours ago. That had been happening more and more lately, but I told myself it was just the busy season at work. His consulting firm was expanding, taking on bigger clients, and he needed to be there early. That's what I told myself because that's what he told me, and I still believed him then. I got out of bed and went through my morning routine. Shower, moisturizer, the careful application of makeup that made me look polished but not overdone. I chose a simple dress from my closet, navy blue with a white collar, and paired it with low heels. At 32, I'd perfected the art of looking put together without trying too hard. Our house was in the suburbs, a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial with a garden I'd spent years perfecting. The kitchen had granite countertops I'd picked out myself, and the living room had the fireplace Derek had insisted we needed. Everything was exactly as we'd planned when we bought it 7 years ago. I made coffee in the expensive machine Derek bought last Christmas and sat at the island, scrolling through my phone. An email from my mother reminded me about Sunday dinner. A text from my best friend Rachel asked if I wanted to meet for lunch. A reminder about the dry cleaning I needed to pick up. Normal life. Regular life. The life I thought I had. Derek came home late that night after 9. I'd kept his dinner in the oven, chicken and vegetables, his favorite. He kissed my cheek absently and loosened his tie, dropping his briefcase by the door in that careless way that used to make me smile. Long day? I asked, setting his plate on the table. You have no idea, he sighed, sitting down heavily. The Patterson account is being difficult. We might lose them if we can't present a better proposal. I sat across from him, sipping water while he ate. Is there anything I can do to help? He looked up at me and something flickered in his eyes. Something I couldn't read then but would understand later. No, baby. I got it handled. Just need to put in more hours, that's all. You've been putting in a lot of hours lately, I said carefully. Maybe you need to hire another associate to help with the workload? Can't afford it right now, he said, focused on his food. Once we land a few more big clients, maybe. But for now, it's just me and the team pulling double duty. I nodded, accepting this explanation like I'd accepted all the others. The late nights. The weekend conference calls. The business trips that seemed to happen more frequently. I was a good wife. A supportive wife. I didn't question or nag or make his stress worse by demanding attention. Looking back now, I can see how stupid I was. How willfully blind. But that night, I just cleared his plate when he finished and asked if he wanted to watch a movie. He said he was too tired, kissed my forehead, and went upstairs to bed. I stayed downstairs, straightening up the kitchen that was already clean, watering the plants, doing all the small tasks that filled my evenings. Our marriage had been good once. When we first met 10 years ago, Derek had swept me off my feet with his confidence and ambition. He was building his consulting firm from nothing, working 80-hour weeks, and he was so passionate about his dreams that I couldn't help but believe in them too. We got married after 2 years of dating. I wore my grandmother's veil and carried white roses. Derek cried when I walked down the aisle, and when he said his vows, I believed every word. For better or worse. In sickness and in health. Until death do us part. I'd meant those words with everything in me. In the early years we'd been a team. I'd helped him build his business, doing bookkeeping on weekends, hosting dinners for potential clients, making sure he had everything he needed to succeed. When he finally landed his first major corporate account, we'd celebrated with champagne on our apartment balcony, and he told me he couldn't have done it without me. Somewhere along the way that partnership had faded. As his business grew, my role shrunk. He hired a real bookkeeper, then an office manager, then a full staff. He didn't need me the same way anymore. And I'd been okay with that because I'd thought it meant we could focus on us, on building our family, on enjoying the life we'd worked so hard to create. But Derek had other ideas. He threw himself deeper into work, taking on more clients, traveling more, networking constantly. I'd suggested we try for kids, but he'd said the timing wasn't right. Maybe next year. Maybe when things settled down. Things never settled down. I started filling my days with other things. I volunteered at the library. I took cooking classes. I renovated the guest bathroom and planted a vegetable garden. I had lunch with friends and went to book club and pretended that my increasingly empty marriage was just a phase that all couples went through. My mother noticed. She cornered me at Sunday dinner one week, maybe 3 months before everything fell apart. "Simone, honey, are you happy?" I'd been loading the dishwasher, my back to her. "Of course I'm happy. Why wouldn't I be? You just seem distant lately. And Derek barely looks at you anymore." "He's stressed with work," I said automatically. "Once this busy season is over." "There's always going to be a busy season," my mother cut me off gently. "That's not an excuse for neglecting your marriage." I turned to face her, defensive. "He's not neglecting anything. We're fine. We're just going through a normal period that all marriages go through." My mother had looked at me with sad, knowing eyes. "If you say so, baby. But if you ever need to talk, I'm here." I'd hugged her and changed the subject, uncomfortable with how close she'd come to the doubts I kept locked away. Because I did have doubts. I just didn't want to look at them too closely. 2 weeks after that conversation, I noticed the first real red flag. Derek left his credit card statement on his desk in the home office. Usually, he was careful about keeping his financial documents in order, but he'd been rushing that morning and forgot it. I hadn't been snooping, I was just putting a package delivery on his desk when I saw it. At first, I was just going to leave it. But something made me look. Maybe intuition. Maybe just curiosity. There were charges I didn't recognize. Expensive restaurants I'd never been to. A jewelry store where he hadn't bought me anything. And most confusing, hotel charges. Multiple hotel charges in our own city, on nights when Derek had supposedly been working late at the office. My hands started shaking as I held the paper. There had to be an explanation. Maybe he was taking clients out. Maybe the jewelry was for a colleague's retirement gift. Maybe the hotel charges were for out-of-town clients he was putting up. But even as I made these excuses in my head, I knew. Deep down, in that place where we keep the truths we're too scared to face, I knew. I took photos of the statement with my phone and put the paper back exactly where I'd found it. My heart was racing and I felt sick. I went to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror, seeing my own scared eyes looking back. "Don't jump to conclusions," I told my reflection. "There's probably a good explanation." But that night, when Derek came home and kissed my cheek and told me about his day, I listened for the lies. And I heard them. In the way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes when he talked about working late. In the way he changed the subject when I asked about his upcoming business trip. In the way he checked his phone constantly, smiling at messages he didn't share with me. I'd been looking at my husband and I'd realized I didn't know him anymore. That night, after he fell asleep, I lay awake in the dark and made a decision. I wouldn't confront him yet. I wouldn't cry or scream or fall apart. I would find out the truth first. All of it. And then I would decide what to do. I had no idea that decision would lead me here to this moment, to standing in the lobby of a hotel I now owned, watching my husband's face as his world collapsed. But that was still months away. That night, I was just a woman lying next to a stranger, feeling her marriage crack apart in the silence. I hired the private investigator on a Thursday afternoon. His office was in a part of town I'd never been to, above a dry cleaner on a street where nobody I knew would ever see me. His name was Gregory Foster and he had kind eyes but a serious face. He'd been recommended by Rachel, who'd used him during her own divorce 2 years earlier. I need to know if my husband is cheating on me, I told him, sitting in his cluttered office with my purse clutched on my lap. Gregory didn't look surprised or judgmental. He just pulled out a notepad and clicked his pen. Tell me what's made you suspicious. I laid it all out. The credit card charges. The late nights. The way Derek's phone was suddenly password protected when it never had been before. The business trips that seemed too frequent. The distance between us that had grown from a crack to a canyon. I need proof, I said. If I'm wrong, I need to know that too. But if I'm right. My voice caught. If I'm right, I need to know everything. I need evidence that will hold up if this goes to court. Gregory nodded. I'll need some information from you. Your husband's schedule, his office address, the places he frequents. Do you have access to his computer or phone? His computer sometimes. His phone, no. Not anymore. That's fine. I can work with what you have. He slid a contract across the desk. My services aren't cheap, but I'm thorough. If your husband is hiding something, I'll find it. I signed the contract with shaking hands. When I wrote the check for his retainer, I used my personal account, the one Derek didn't have access to. He didn't know about that account. He didn't know about a lot of things. For years I kept my family money separate. My father had died when I was 25, leaving me and my mother a substantial inheritance. My mother had taken her half and retired early. I'd put mine in investments and savings, keeping it quiet, keeping it safe. Derek and I had a prenuptial agreement. He'd insisted on it, actually wanting to protect his business. But that prenup also protected my inheritance. He had no claim to it and I'd made sure it stayed that way. I'd been raised by a mother who'd watched her own mother lose everything in a divorce. Always keep something of your own, she told me. I don't care how much you love him. Keep your own money, your own bank account, your own credit card. You never know what might happen. At the time, I thought she was being paranoid. Now I was grateful for her paranoia. Gregory called me 3 days later. I have something. Can you come to the office? I made an excuse to Derek about meeting Rachel for lunch and drove to Gregory's office with my heart in my throat. He met me at the door and led me inside, his expression carefully neutral. I'm not going to lie to you, Mrs. Brooks. What I found isn't good. He opened a manila folder and spread photographs across his desk. My hand went to my mouth. There was Derek, clear as day, his arm around a blonde woman I didn't recognize. We're walking into a hotel, the Grand Sterling, ironically. The next photo showed them in a restaurant, holding hands across the table. Another showed them kissing in a parking garage. Her name is Heather Patterson, Gregory said. She's 26. She's been working as your husband's executive assistant for about 8 months. 8 months. My vision blurred with tears, but I blinked them back furiously. I wouldn't cry. Not yet. There's more, Gregory continued. I tracked his credit card usage and cross-referenced it with her social media posts. They've been seeing each other at least twice a week, sometimes more. Always the same hotel. He checks in under his own name, pays with his credit card. He's not even trying to hide it, I whispered. A lot of them don't, Gregory said. They think they're invincible. They think they won't get caught. I stared at the photos. Derek's face in those pictures looked happy. He was smiling in a way he hadn't smiled at me in years. And this girl, Heather, she was looking at him like he hung the moon. I need more, I said. I need dates, times, everything. I need a complete record. I can do that, Gregory said. But Mrs. Brooks, I have to ask, what are you planning to do with this information? I looked up at him and I felt something shift inside me. The hurt was there, sharp and aching, but beneath it was something else. Something cold and clear and determined. I'm going to make sure he regrets every lie he ever told me, I said. Gregory studied me for a moment, then nodded. I'll get you everything you need. Over the next 3 weeks, Gregory compiled a file that was both devastating and comprehensive. Photos, dates, receipts, witness statements from hotel staff, even records of gifts Derek had charged to our joint credit card and given to Heather. I read through it all, sitting at my kitchen table while Derek was at work, probably with her. Each piece of evidence was a knife to the heart, but I didn't let myself fall apart. Not yet. I had work to do. I called my lawyer, the one who'd handled my father's estate. Her name was Patricia Chin, and she was known for being brilliant and ruthless in divorce cases. When I walked into her office with Gregory's file, she took one look at my face and poured me a glass of water. "Tell me everything," she said. I did. I laid out the affair, the evidence, the financial situation. I explained about my separate inheritance and the prenup. Patricia took notes, asked questions, and nodded along. "Here's what I need to know," she said when I finished. "What do you want out of this?" "Everything," I said immediately. "I want him to lose everything he used our money for. I want my share of our joint assets. I want him exposed for what he is. And I never want to see his face again." Patricia smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Then let's get started." That's when she told me something interesting. "You know, the Grand Sterling Hotel just went on the market. The previous owners are retiring and they want a quick, quiet sale." I frowned, not understanding why this mattered. "Okay. You said your husband takes his mistress there regularly. That it's their special place." Understanding dawned. "How much are they asking?" Patricia told me the number. It was substantial but not impossible. With my inheritance and my investments, I could afford it. Barely. "What if I bought it?" I asked slowly. "Then you'd own the place where your husband has been conducting his affair. You'd have access to all their records, all their security footage. You'd have control." Patricia leaned forward. "And when the time is right, you could make sure he knows exactly what you've done." The idea was insane. It was dramatic and over the top and exactly the kind of thing that only happened in movies. But as I sat there, thinking about Derek's lies and Heather's smug face in those photos, I felt something fierce and powerful rise up in me. "Let's do it," I said. Patricia raised her eyebrows. "Are you sure? This is a major investment, and there's no guarantee." "I'm sure," I interrupted. "My whole life I've been careful. I've been safe. I've been the good wife who didn't make waves. And where did it get me? Cheated on and lied to. So yes, I'm sure. I want that hotel." It took 2 weeks to make it happen. I used my maiden name, Simone Walker, for all the paperwork. The sellers were thrilled to have a quick, cash buyer. Patricia handled the legal details, making sure everything was airtight and completely separate from anything Derek could touch. When the keys were handed to me in Patricia's office, I held them in my palm and felt their weight. These keys represented more than just property. They represented my future, my freedom, my revenge. "Now what?" Patricia asked. "Now we wait," I said. "We gather more evidence, we make sure everything is documented. And when the time is right, we spring the trap." I went home that night and made dinner like always. Derek came home late like always. He kissed my cheek and complained about his day, and I smiled and nodded and pretended I didn't know that he'd spent his lunch hour in room 312 of my hotel with his assistant. I played the role of the oblivious wife perfectly. Because I'd learned something important over those weeks of investigation and planning. I'd learned that I was stronger than I thought. I'd learned that I could smile while my heart was breaking. I'd learned that I could be strategic and patient when I needed to be. Derek had underestimated me. He'd thought I was just the supportive wife, the woman who existed to make his life easier. He'd forgotten that I had my own mind, my own resources, my own power. He was about to remember. My Aunt Caroline died on a Tuesday in March. I hadn't seen her in 5 years. She was my father's older sister, a woman who'd never married, never had children, and had spent her life building a real estate empire that spanned 3 states. She was eccentric and brilliant and intimidating, and when I was growing up, I'd been both fascinated by her and terrified of her. After my father died, Aunt Caroline and I had grown apart. She didn't approve of Derek, said he had empty eyes and a hungry mouth, and I'd been too defensive of my marriage to listen. We'd exchanged Christmas cards and the occasional phone call, but nothing more. So when her lawyer called to tell me she'd passed away from a stroke, I felt guilty for all the years I'd let slip by. "She left you something," the lawyer said. "We need to schedule a reading of the will." I assumed it would be a small bequest. Maybe some jewelry or family photos. Aunt Caroline had always been charitable, and I figured most of her estate would go to foundations and causes she supported. I was wrong. The lawyer's office was downtown, in one of those old buildings with marble floors and wood paneling. I sat in a leather chair across from his enormous desk, and he slid a folder toward me. Your aunt was very specific about this, he said. She wanted you to have full access to these assets immediately upon her death. No waiting period, no complications. She set it up years ago. I opened the folder and stared at the numbers. Then I blinked and stared again because surely I was reading it wrong. That can't be right, I said. It's correct, the lawyer assured me. Your aunt's estate is worth approximately $38 million. The bulk of it, $30 million, goes to you. The rest is divided between various charities. The room spun. $30 million? Yes. She was very clear that your husband was not to have any access to these funds. They're to be held in your name only, completely separate from any marital assets. She was quite adamant about that. I thought of Aunt Caroline's words at my wedding reception, pulling me aside in the hallway. If things ever go wrong, Simone, you call me. Don't be proud. Don't be stupid. You call me. I hadn't called her. But she protected me anyway. There are properties as well, the lawyer continued, sliding more papers across the desk. Commercial buildings, apartment complexes, some land holdings. She's left detailed instructions for management companies that currently handle them, but you'll have final say on everything. I couldn't speak. I just sat there, holding papers that represented more money than I'd ever imagined having. Ms. Walker, the lawyer said gently, using my maiden name, your aunt told me something when she set this up. She said you were smarter than you gave yourself credit for, and that one day you'd need these resources to save yourself. She wanted to make sure you had them when that day came. Tears burned my eyes. Aunt Caroline had known. Somehow she'd known. She also left you a letter, he said, handing me an envelope. I opened it with shaking hands. The handwriting was Aunt Caroline's, bold and decisive. Simone. If you're reading this, I'm gone, and I hope you're not too sad about it. I've lived exactly the life I wanted, and I have no regrets. I'm leaving you my fortune because you're my brother's daughter, and he would want you taken care of. But more than that, I'm leaving it to you because I know you'll need it. I saw the way your husband looked at you at your wedding, like you were a beautiful accessory instead of a person. I saw the way you dimmed yourself to make him shine. Don't waste your life being small for a small man, Simone. Use this money to be big. Be bold. Be the woman I know you can be. And if that husband of yours has betrayed you the way I suspect he will, use every penny of this fortune to make sure he never forgets what he lost. Love always, Aunt Caroline. I pressed the letter to my chest and let myself cry. Not for my marriage, I'd already mourned that. But for the aunt who'd loved me enough to plan for my future, even when I couldn't see it myself. The timing was perfect. I'd already bought the hotel using my first inheritance. Now I had the resources to build something even bigger. To not just survive Derek's betrayal, but to thrive in spite of it. When I left the lawyer's office, I sat in my car for a long time thinking. Derek had no idea this money existed. He didn't know about the properties or the investments or the opportunities now opening up before me. He thought I was dependent on him. He thought I needed him. He was about to find out how wrong he was. I called Patricia from the car. I need to see you. Something's changed. In her office an hour later, I laid out the inheritance. Patricia's eyes widened. This changes everything, she said. I know. And I want to use it. I leaned forward. The hotel is just the beginning. I want to build something real. I want to take the properties Aunt Caroline left me and turn them into a business empire. I want to be so successful that Derek sees my name in the business section of every newspaper and realizes what an idiot he was. Patricia smiled. I like the way you think. But you'll need help. Property management, business development, marketing. I'll hire the best, I said. Money isn't an object anymore. Over the next month, I assembled a team. A property manager who'd worked with Aunt Caroline for decades. A business consultant who specialized in hospitality. An accountant who could handle complex estate planning. A marketing director who understood luxury branding. I met with them in secret, using conference rooms in hotels across the city, never the same place twice. Derek thought I was taking a cooking class on Thursdays and having lunch with friends on Tuesdays. He barely paid attention anyway, too focused on his own activities, which I knew included long lunches with Heather at trendy restaurants I couldn't afford with our joint money. My team helped me understand Aunt Caroline's properties. There were 3 apartment buildings in prime locations, currently managed but underperforming. There was a small boutique hotel in the mountains that was losing money. There was commercial real estate that was being leased below market value. You're sitting on a gold mine, my business consultant told me. With the right investments and management, you could double your portfolio's value in 5 years. I want to start with the hotel, I said. The Grand Sterling. I want to renovate it, rebrand it, make it the most exclusive hotel in the city. That'll be expensive, my property manager warned. I don't care, I said. Make it happen. We worked in secret, planning every detail. I hired architects to redesign the hotel's interiors. I brought in a new general manager, someone with experience at 5-star resorts. I approved new uniforms for the staff, new menus for the restaurant, new art for the walls. All of it was done under my maiden name. All of it was completely separate from Derek. At home, I continued to play the role of the devoted wife. I made dinners Derek barely ate. I asked about his day and pretended to believe his lies. I folded his laundry and organized his office and smiled when he kissed my forehead absently before falling asleep. But inside, I was someone else entirely. I was Simone Walker, businesswoman. I was the owner of a growing property empire. I was my aunt's heir and my father's daughter, and I was done being small. Rachel noticed the change in me. We met for lunch one day and she studied my face across the table. You look different, she said. Different how? I don't know. Stronger maybe? Like you've got a secret. She paused. Have you confronted Derek yet? I told Rachel about the affair weeks ago, needing someone to talk to. She'd been furious on my behalf, offering to slash his tires or key his car. I'd laughed and told her I had a better plan. Not yet, I said. But soon. How are you so calm about this? Rachel asked. If it were me, I'd have burned his clothes and posted the evidence all over social media. Because I'm playing a longer game, I said. Derek thinks he's won. He thinks he's got his successful business and his young girlfriend and his clueless wife at home. He has no idea what's coming. Rachel grinned. I've always said you were smarter than you acted. When this all goes down, I want a front row seat. You'll have one, I promised. That night I stood in my hotel, and looked around at the construction crews working late. They were tearing out the old carpet, replacing it with marble. They were installing new light fixtures, crystal chandeliers that cost more than Derek's car. They were building something beautiful, something strong, something mine. Derek had taken Heather to this hotel 14 times. He'd brought her here because he thought it was neutral territory, a place where he could live his double life without consequences. He'd picked the wrong hotel. In 2 months, the renovations would be complete. In 2 months, I'd execute the final phase of my plan. In 2 months, Derek would walk through those doors expecting another romantic weekend, and instead, he'd find me. I couldn't wait to see his face. The renovation of the Grand Sterling Hotel took exactly 63 days. I was there almost every day watching the transformation. In the mornings, I'd tell Derek I was going to a yoga class or meeting a friend for coffee. Then I'd drive downtown to the hotel and spend hours with contractors, designers, and my management team. The hotel had good bones but needed modernization. We gutted the rooms, installing smart technology and luxury bathrooms with rainfall showers and heated floors. We redesigned the lobby, removing the dark wood paneling and replacing it with light marble and glass. The old restaurant became a modern space with an open kitchen and a menu crafted by a chef we'd poached from a Michelin-starred establishment. This is going to cost more than we initially projected, my property manager, Glenn, warned me one afternoon. We were standing in what would become the new penthouse suite, watching workers install floor-to-ceiling windows. I don't care about the cost, I said. I want this hotel to be perfect. Glenn nodded. He was in his 50s, had worked with Aunt Caroline for 20 years, and never questioned my decisions. Your aunt would be proud of what you're building here. I hope so, I said softly. While the hotel was being renovated, I was also working on Aunt Caroline's other properties. The apartment buildings needed updating, so I approved renovations for those as well. New appliances, fresh paint, modern security systems. The boutique hotel in the mountains needed a complete rebranding, so I hired a team to transform it into a luxury ski resort. I was building an empire, piece by piece, and Derek had no idea. At home, our marriage continued its slow death. Derek was barely there anymore. He'd come home after I was asleep and leave before I woke up. When we did see each other, our conversations were surface level and meaningless. How was your day? He'd ask, scrolling through his phone. Fine, I'd answer, not bothering to elaborate. He never asked for details. He never showed real interest. He was just going through the motions, maintaining the appearance of a marriage while living his real life elsewhere. I knew from Gregory's reports that Derek was with Heather almost every night now. They'd graduated from hotel rooms to her apartment, a small place downtown that Derek was paying for. He was also paying her credit cards, buying her clothes and jewelry, taking her on weekend trips he told me were business conferences. He's gotten sloppy, Gregory told me during one of our weekly meetings. He's not even trying to hide it anymore. I think he's planning to leave you soon. Let him plan, I said. It won't matter. Gregory showed me new photos. Derek and Heather at a beach resort. Derek and Heather at a fancy restaurant. Derek and Heather looking at apartments in the city's most expensive neighborhood. He's looking at places for them to live together, Gregory explained. I talked to the realtor, pretending to be a prospective buyer. The agent said Derek told her he was recently separated and looking for a fresh start. Recently separated, I repeated, tasting the lie. We're not separated. We're living in the same house. He's setting up his exit strategy, Gregory said. Building a narrative where you're the problem so he can play the victim when he leaves. I'd expected this, but it still stung. Derek was rewriting our history, turning our marriage into something it never was, painting me as someone I wasn't. Does Heather know he's lying about being separated? I asked. Hard to say, Gregory said. Either she knows and doesn't care, or she's buying his story. Either way, she's complicit. I added this information to my growing file. Every lie, every betrayal, every dollar spent, I documented it all. Patricia was building the divorce case systematically. We have enough evidence for adultery which affects asset division. But I'm also investigating his business finances. I think there's more going on there. She was right. When my forensic accountant dug into Derek's company records, we found discrepancies. Money moving from business accounts to personal accounts. Expenses that didn't match up with company activities. Cash withdrawals that weren't documented. He's been embezzling from his own company, my accountant explained, showing me spreadsheets that made my head spin. He's hidden it well, but it's there. He's been taking money for years, probably to fund his lifestyle. Can we prove it? I asked. With time, yes. The paper trail exists. It's just buried under layers of shell companies and fake expenses. Do it, I said. I want every penny accounted for. Derek's company was technically half mine. We'd built it together in the early years, even though my name wasn't on the paperwork. He'd used our joint money to get it off the ground, which meant I had a claim to it. If Derek had been embezzling, that was a crime. And if he'd been using stolen money to fund his affair, that was something a judge would care about in divorce proceedings. While my team worked on building the case, I focused on my own business. The Grand Sterling was almost ready for its soft reopening. We'd sent out invitations to select guests, offering them complimentary stays to test our new services and provide feedback. We're booked solid for the first month, Glenn told me. Everyone wants to see what you've done with the place. I walked through the finished hotel with a sense of pride. The lobby was stunning, all light and glass and elegant furniture. The rooms were luxurious without being pretentious. The restaurant had already gotten buzz from food critics who'd visited during soft opening events. This was mine. I built this. The only piece missing was the grand reopening event. I wanted something spectacular, something that would announce to the city that the Grand Sterling was under new management and better than ever. What about a charity gala? My marketing director suggested. We could partner with a local nonprofit, get the press involved, make it a real event. I like that, I said. But I want to wait a few more weeks. I want everything to be perfect. What I didn't say was that I was waiting for the right moment. The moment when Derek would make his move, when he'd try to leave me or force my hand. I wanted all my pieces in place before the final confrontation. That moment came sooner than I expected. I was at the hotel one afternoon, reviewing menus with the chef, when my phone rang. It was Derek, which was unusual. He rarely called anymore. Simone, we need to talk, he said, his voice strained. My heart started pounding, but I kept my voice calm. Okay. When? Tonight. After work. Can you be home by 7? Of course, I said. Is everything okay? We'll talk tonight, he said and hung up. I looked at my phone, knowing exactly what was coming. This was it. Derek was going to ask for a divorce. He was going to try to leave me before I could leave him. I called Patricia immediately. He's going to do it tonight. He's going to ask for a divorce. Perfect, Patricia said. Let him think he's in control. Don't fight it. Act hurt and confused. We'll hit him with our paperwork tomorrow. I spent the rest of the afternoon preparing. I went home and changed into comfortable clothes, nothing too nice. I wanted to look like the wife he was leaving, not the businesswoman I'd become. I made dinner, his favorite pasta dish, because that's what the old Simone would have done. When Derek came home at exactly 7, I was in the kitchen, setting the table. He looked nervous, which was good. You should be nervous. Sit down, he said, not even noticing the food. We need to talk. I sat, folding my hands in my lap, channeling vulnerability. What's going on? You're scaring me. Derek couldn't meet my eyes. Simone, this isn't working anymore. Our marriage. I don't think either of us is happy. What are you talking about? I let my voice shake. I'm happy. I thought we were happy. You're happy because you don't see what's really happening, he said, and I marveled at his ability to make his betrayal sound like my failure. We've grown apart. We want different things. I think it's time we admitted that and moved on. Moved on. I repeated. You mean divorce? Yes, he said, finally looking at me. I think we should get divorced. It's better for both of us. I let tears fill my eyes. They weren't hard to summon. I was crying for the marriage I thought I had, for the years I'd wasted, for the girl I'd been when we got married. Is there someone else? Derek had the decency to look uncomfortable. That's not what this is about. But is there? I pressed. Simone, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Answer the question, Derek. Is there someone else? He sighed. Yes. Okay. Yes. I've been seeing someone. But that's not why I want a divorce. I want a divorce because our marriage is over. I stood up, knocking my chair back. How long? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. How long have you been cheating on me? About 8 months, he admitted. 8 months. The same amount of time Heather had been his assistant. He'd been lying to me for 8 months and I'd known for most of them. Get out, I said, my voice breaking. Simone. Get out of this house. I can't look at you right now. Derek stood up, looking almost relieved. I'll stay at a hotel tonight. We can talk about the details tomorrow. Fine, I said. Just go. He grabbed his keys and his phone and walked out. I heard his car start, heard him drive away. Then I collapsed into a chair and let myself cry real, ugly tears that I'd been holding back for months. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of release. The trap was set. Tomorrow Derek would get the surprise of his life. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea, watching the hours tick by, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. At 6 a.m, I called Patricia. He did it. He asked for a divorce and admitted to the affair. Perfect, Patricia said, sounding wide awake despite the early hour. Did you record the conversation? Every word, I confirmed. I'd set up a recording app on my phone before Derek came home, and it had captured everything. Excellent. Give me 2 hours and then I'll have the papers delivered to his office. We're filing first, which gives us the advantage. He's going to be served while we're already 3 steps ahead. What about the hotel plan? I asked. That's up to you, Patricia said. We can proceed with the divorce without the dramatic confrontation, or we can wait and give him the full experience of discovering what you've built. I thought about it for a moment. Part of me wanted to move forward immediately, wanted to end this marriage as quickly as possible. But another part of me, the part that had been lied to and betrayed for 8 months, wanted Derek to feel what I'd felt. Wanted him to experience the shock of discovering that nothing was as he thought. I want the confrontation, I said. I want him to know exactly what he lost. Then we'll time everything perfectly, Patricia said. Trust me. By 10 that morning, Derek had been served with divorce papers at his office. Gregory texted me a photo of the process server walking out of Derek's building. I imagined Derek's face as he opened the envelope as he realized I'd beaten him to it. My phone started ringing almost immediately. Derek's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. After the 5th call I finally answered. What the hell, Simone? His voice was angry now, the guilt from last night completely gone. You had me served at my office? In front of everyone? You wanted a divorce, I said calmly. I'm giving you one. We were supposed to talk about this like adults. We did talk. You told me you've been cheating on me for 8 months. What else is there to discuss? The terms, he sputtered. The division of assets, the settlement. That's what lawyers are for, I said. Mine will be in touch with yours. You don't even have a lawyer, Derek said, and I could hear the smugness creeping back into his voice. You don't know anything about divorce law. You're going to need my help to navigate this. I almost laughed. I have a lawyer, Derek. A very good one. And I've had her for months. Silence. What? You're not the only one who can plan ahead, I said. Now if you'll excuse me, I have things to do. I hung up before he could respond and blocked his number. Any communication from this point forward would go through our lawyers. Patricia called 30 minutes later. His lawyer just contacted me. Derek is furious and wants to expedite everything. He's claiming you're being vindictive. I haven't even started being vindictive, I said. I love it, Patricia laughed. Okay, here's the timeline. We've filed for divorce citing adultery. We're demanding a full accounting of all marital assets and business finances. We're also putting a freeze on the joint accounts so he can't drain them. Can we do that? We can, and we did. He'll have access to his own earnings, but the joint money is locked down until the divorce is settled. And Simone? We found something interesting in his business accounts. My pulse quickened. What? He's been planning to liquidate some business assets. We think he was going to hide the money before divorcing you, which would have left you with nothing. But because we filed first, we caught him before he could do it. I closed my eyes, feeling sick. Derek hadn't just been unfaithful. He'd been planning to rob me. There's more, Patricia continued. The forensic accountant found the embezzlement trail. Derek has been stealing from his own company for at least 3 years. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. What do we do with that information? We can turn it over to the authorities, but that might complicate the divorce. Or we can use it as leverage to get you everything you deserve in the settlement. Your choice. I thought about it. Let's use it as leverage for now. But I want the option to go to the authorities if he doesn't cooperate. Done, Patricia said. Now about your hotel plan. When do you want to execute it? I checked my calendar. The hotel's grand reopening was scheduled for 2 weeks from now. I want to do it before the grand reopening. I want to give him just enough time to think he's getting away with everything, and then I want to pull the rug out. Devious, Patricia approved. I'll help you coordinate the timing. Over the next week, Derek tried everything to contact me. He called from different numbers. He showed up at the house, but I wouldn't answer the door. He sent emails that ranged from apologetic to angry to pleading. I ignored them all. Meanwhile, my team was putting the finishing touches on the hotel. The staff had been trained, the systems were tested, and everything was ready. We did a final walkthrough, and I stood in the lobby with Glenn, looking around at what we'd created. This is incredible, Glenn said. You should be proud. I am, I said. But it's not finished yet. I'd asked Gregory to find out Derek's plans. He reported back that Derek had made a reservation at the Grand Sterling for the following weekend, under his own name. He'd booked the penthouse suite, the most expensive room in the hotel. He's taking Heather, Gregory said. Probably to celebrate the divorce and their new life together. Perfect, I said. That's exactly what I was hoping for. I coordinated with Patricia and Glenn. We would let Derek check in normally. We would let him think everything was fine. And then, at exactly the right moment, I would appear. The hotel staff was briefed on what was going to happen. Some of them remembered Derek from his previous visits and were eager to participate. They'd seen him bring different women to the hotel over the years and had never liked him. We've got your back, Ms. Walker, the head concierge told me. This is going to be beautiful. The night before Derek's arrival, I barely slept. I was nervous and excited and terrified all at once. This was it. The moment I'd been planning for months. The moment when Derek would finally understand what he'd lost. I spent hours choosing my outfit. I wanted to look powerful, successful, and completely unbothered. I settled on a navy blue suit with a white silk blouse and my favorite heels. I had my hair done at a salon, styled in a sleek bun. I kept my makeup simple but polished. When I looked in the mirror the morning of the confrontation, I saw a woman I barely recognized. Gone was the uncertain housewife who'd made dinner for a husband who didn't appreciate her. In her place was someone stronger, someone who'd built an empire while her marriage crumbled. I arrived at the hotel 3 hours before Derek's reservation time. I wanted to be there in my office on the top floor when he checked in. I wanted to watch him on the security cameras, see him laugh with Heather, watch him think he was getting away with everything. Glenn came to my office with coffee and a knowing smile. Big day. Biggest day, I agreed. At exactly 3 o'clock, Derek's car pulled up to the hotel entrance. I watched on the security feed as the valet opened his door, as Heather stepped out of the passenger side in a dress that was too tight and heels that were too high. They walked into the lobby hand in hand. Derek was smiling, saying something that made Heather laugh. They looked happy. They looked like a couple in love without a care in the world. The desk clerk checked them in smoothly, handed them key cards and directed them to the elevators. They didn't notice the security guards positioned carefully around the lobby. They didn't notice the cameras tracking their every move. They didn't notice me watching from above. I gave them an hour to settle into their room. I wanted them comfortable, relaxed, thinking they had the whole weekend ahead of them. Then I called Glenn. It's time, I said. Glenn smiled. Let's go introduce you to your guests. We took the elevator down to the lobby. My heart was pounding but my hands were steady. This was my hotel. This was my moment. And Derek was about to get the shock of his life. The elevator doors opened and I stepped out into the lobby I'd rebuilt from the ground up. The staff straightened, ready for the show. I took my position near the reception desk, exactly where I'd be visible the moment Derek and Heather came downstairs. Glenn sent a message to their room through the hotel system. Complimentary champagne service available in the lobby lounge. Please join us for a welcome toast. I watched the elevator indicator. Floor 12. Floor 11. Floor 10. They were coming. The elevator doors opened and there they were. Derek in casual slacks and a polo shirt. Heather in that ridiculous dress, clinging to his arm. They stepped into the lobby looking around for the champagne service. And then Derek saw me. I watched his face change exactly as I'd imagined it would. The smile dropped. The color drained. His steps faltered and Heather stumbled slightly when he stopped moving. This was the moment. This was my revenge. I smiled and took a step forward. Hello, Derek. Welcome to my hotel. Time seemed to slow down as I watched Derek's face cycle through emotions. Confusion. Disbelief. Or understanding. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, no sound coming out. Heather looked between us, her grip tightening on Derek's arm. What's going on? What's going on? I said, my voice carrying across the lobby. Is that your boyfriend just realized he's been bringing you to a hotel that I own? That's impossible, Derek finally managed to say. His voice was hoarse, strangled. You can't. How did you? How did I buy a hotel? I finished for him. With my money, Derek. My inheritance. The money you never bothered to ask about because you assumed I had nothing of my own. I gestured to the space around us. Take a good look. Every piece of furniture, every light fixture, every inch of marble under your feet. I paid for it. I renovated this entire building while you were busy lying to me. Derek's face flushed red. You're insane. You bought an entire hotel just to, what? To humiliate me? No, I said calmly. I bought this hotel because it was a good investment. The humiliation is just a bonus. Heather tried to pull Derek toward the exit, but he was rooted to the spot, staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Around us, other guests had started to notice the scene. A couple by the elevators paused. The concierge behind his desk was barely hiding his grin. Glenn appeared beside me, tablet in hand. Ms. Walker, should I show them their guest history? Please, I said. Glenn turned his tablet so Derek and Heather could see the screen. Mr. Brooks, you've stayed at this hotel 17 times in the past 9 months. Always the same suite. Always with the same guest. He nodded toward Heather. Would you like me to read the room service orders? The charges to your credit card. That's private information. Derek sputtered. Actually, I said, as the owner of this hotel, I have access to all guest records. And as your soon-to-be ex-wife, I have access to all your credit card statements, which show every penny you spent here. Every bottle of expensive wine. Every room service meal. Every rose petal turn-down service you ordered. Heather's face had gone pale. She was looking at Derek now with something like betrayal in her eyes. You told me this was our special place. That you'd never brought anyone else here. I haven't. Derek said quickly. Simone, tell her you've never been here before. Oh, I haven't been here as a guest, I agreed. But I've been here every day for the past 2 months, overseeing the renovations. I've been in your favorite suite, actually. We completely redid it. New mattress, new furniture, new everything. I wanted to erase every trace of you. Derek's hands clenched into fists at his sides. You're enjoying this, aren't you? You've been planning this whole thing. I've been planning since the day I found out you were cheating on me, I said. Did you think I would just roll over and let you leave me for your assistant? Did you think I was that weak? I thought you loved me, Derek said, and there was something desperate in his voice now. I did love you, I replied, and I let him hear the past tense. I loved you enough to support you through building your business. I loved you enough to manage our home and our life so you could focus on your career. I loved you enough to trust you when you said you were working late or traveling for business. I took a step closer to him. But you didn't love me back. You loved my support and my cooking and the image of having a devoted wife. You loved that I didn't ask questions when you started lying. You loved that I made your life easy while you did whatever you wanted. That's not fair, Derek said weakly. What's not fair is that you spent our money on her, I gestured to Heather. What's not fair is that you embezzled from your own company to fund your affair. What's not fair is that you were planning to leave me with nothing while you started your new life. Derek's eyes widened. How do you know about the embezzlement? I smiled. I know everything, Derek. I've had a forensic accountant going through your business records for months. I know about the shell companies. I know about the fake expenses. I know about every dollar you stole. You can't prove anything, Derek said, but his voice lacked conviction. I can, I said. And I will, if necessary. My lawyer has all the evidence ready. We can turn it over to the authorities right now, or you can cooperate with the divorce settlement. Heather pulled her arm free from Derek's and took a step away from him. You stole money? You told me you earned everything legitimately. Heather, don't. Derek reached for her, but she backed away further. You lied to me, Heather said, her voice rising. You told me you were separated. You told me your wife was cold and didn't understand you. You told me you were building a future for us. I am building a future for us. Derek insisted. With stolen money? Heather's voice cracked. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up to be part of some criminal investigation. There's no investigation, Derek said quickly. She's bluffing. I'm not, I said calmly. I pulled my phone from my pocket and showed them a number on my screen. This is the number for the district attorney's office. One phone call and this becomes a criminal matter instead of just a divorce case. Derek paled. Simone, don't do this. We can work something out. We already are working something out, I said. Your lawyer has my lawyer's demands. You give me what I deserve from our marriage and I'll keep your criminal activities between us. For now. What do you want? Derek asked. Everything you took from me, I said. My share of our joint assets. Repayment for every penny you spent on her. And most importantly, I want you out of my life forever. Glenn cleared his throat. Ms. Walker, should I cancel Mr. Brooks' reservation for the penthouse suite? Yes, I said. And please add him to our banned guest list. Mr. Brooks is no longer welcome at any of my properties. Your properties? Derek repeated. This isn't the only one? Did you think I stopped at one hotel? I asked. I own 3 apartment buildings, a boutique resort, and several commercial properties. I've been building a portfolio while you've been sneaking around with your assistant. My aunt left me quite a fortune, Derek. More money than you'll ever see. The information was hitting Derek like physical blows. He looked dizzy, unsteady on his feet. This is crazy. You've gone crazy. No, I said. I've gotten smart. There's a difference. A security guard approached, one of 2 I'd stationed for this exact moment. Ms. Walker, do you need these guests escorted from the property? Yes, please, I said. Immediately. You can't throw me out, Derek said, trying to pull together some dignity. I have rights. You have no rights here, I said. This is private property, and you're no longer a welcome guest. Leave now or security will help you leave. The security guards moved closer, not threatening but present. Derek looked between them and me, finally understanding that he had no power here. This was my domain, not his. Fine, he spat. We're leaving. But this isn't over, Simone. I'll fight you on everything. The divorce, the money, all of it. You'll lose, I said simply. You're an adulterer and a thief. No judge is going to be sympathetic to you. Derek grabbed Heather's arm, but she pulled away from him again. Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again. Heather, please, Derek said. Let me explain. Explain what? Heather's voice was shrill now. That you lied about everything? That you're married and a criminal? That I'm going to be dragged into your divorce as evidence? It's not like that. It's exactly like that. Heather was crying now, mascara running down her face. I quit my job for you. I turned down other opportunities because you promised me we had a future. And now I find out I was just your midlife crisis. She turned to me and I saw genuine fear in her eyes. Please don't drag me into this. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was still married. You knew enough, I said coldly. You saw the pictures on his desk at the office. You saw him check his phone constantly. You knew he was lying about something. You just didn't care because you liked the gifts and the attention. Heather opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She knew I was right. Get out of my hotel, I said to both of them. Security will escort you to your car. The guards moved in, one on each side of Derek and Heather. They shepherded them toward the exit and I watched them go. Derek kept looking back over his shoulder, his face a mask of rage and disbelief. Heather was sobbing openly, stumbling in her ridiculous heels. When they were gone, when the revolving door had spun its last revolution, I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The lobby was silent for a moment, and then someone started clapping. I looked over to see an elderly woman by the elevators applauding. Then others joined in, the concierge, some guests who'd witnessed the scene, even the valet who'd just come inside. I felt my face flush. I hadn't expected this. I'd expected to feel triumphant, vindicated, powerful. Instead, I felt exhausted and strangely empty. Glenn approached me, concern in his eyes. "Are you all right, Ms. Walker?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Ask me tomorrow." I went upstairs to my office and closed the door. Through the window I could see the city spread out below me. My city now. My hotels, my properties, my empire. I'd won. Derek was destroyed, humiliated, facing criminal charges if he didn't cooperate with the divorce. I had everything I wanted, my freedom, my dignity, my revenge. So why did I feel like crying? I called Patricia. She answered on the first ring. "How did it go?" "Perfectly," I said, and my voice only shook a little. "He knows everything now." "Good," Patricia said. "Now we wait. He'll try to negotiate, but he has no leverage. We'll have everything wrapped up within a few months." "And then what?" I asked. "Then you move on with your life," Patricia said gently. "You build your business, you enjoy your success, and you forget Derek ever existed." "Yeah," I said. "That sounds good." But as I hung up the phone and looked around my beautiful office in my beautiful hotel, I wondered if it would really be that simple. I'd gotten my revenge. Now I had to figure out what came next. The news spread faster than I expected. By Monday morning, my phone was flooded with calls and texts. Friends I hadn't heard from in years. Business contacts offering congratulations. Even reporters asking for interviews about my new hotel empire. The story had gotten out, not the full details but enough. "Local woman launches luxury hotel chain," was the headline in the business section. The article mentioned my aunt's inheritance and praised my bold entrepreneurial spirit. It didn't mention Derek at all, which somehow made it worse for him. Rachel called me at 7 in the morning, screaming with joy. "I saw the article. Simone, you're famous. And you didn't tell me about all the other properties." "I wanted to keep it quiet until everything was settled," I said. "Well, it's not quiet anymore. Everyone's talking about it. Do you know what people are saying about Derek?" "I don't want to know," I lied. "Too bad, I'm telling you anyway," Rachel said gleefully. "Word is his business partners are furious. They saw the article about your hotels and started asking questions about where his money came from. Someone leaked the embezzlement story." I sat up straighter. "I didn't leak anything." "I know you didn't," Rachel said. "But someone did. Maybe one of his employees? Someone who knew what was happening and saw an opportunity? Either way, his reputation is destroyed." I should have felt triumphant, but I just felt tired. "I need to go. I have meetings all day." "Lunch this week?" Rachel asked. "I want to hear everything." "Maybe," I said and hung up. Patricia called next with an update. Derek's lawyer requested an emergency meeting. They want to settle quickly and quietly. "How quickly?" "They're proposing we have everything finalized within 30 days. Derek is willing to give you everything you asked for, your share of the joint assets, repayment for what he spent on Heather, and he'll sign a non-disclosure agreement about the embezzlement." "And what does he want in return?" "For you not to go to the authorities. He wants to keep this civil, not criminal." I thought about it. Part of me wanted to see Derek face criminal charges. Wanted to see him in handcuffs, wanted him to face real consequences. But another part of me just wanted it to be over. "Tell him I'll agree on one condition," I said. "He has to tell his business partners the truth about what he did. I want them to know who they've been in business with. If he does that, I won't press charges." Patricia paused. "That's actually worse for him than criminal charges might be. His reputation in the business community will be destroyed." "Good," I said. "He destroyed our marriage. Let him see what that feels like." "I'll convey your terms," Patricia said. The divorce proceedings moved forward with surprising speed. Derek signed every paper put in front of him. He didn't fight for the house or the furniture or any of our shared possessions. He just wanted it over. I moved through those weeks in a strange haze. During the day I worked on my hotels. We had the grand reopening scheduled and I threw myself into planning every detail. At night, I sat in the house I'd shared with Derek and packed up 10 years of my life into boxes. I found our wedding album in a closet and sat on the floor, flipping through photos. There was Derek, young and happy, tears on his face as I walked down the aisle. There I was, smiling so big it looked like my face might crack open with joy. We looked like strangers to me now. I threw the album in a donation box and kept packing. Heather tried to contact me once. She sent an email to my personal account. I don't know how she got it, with "I'm sorry" in the subject line. The message was long and rambling. She talked about how Derek had lied to her, how she'd believed him when he said his marriage was over, how she'd never meant to hurt anyone. She said she'd lost her job and her apartment and her friends. She said she was moving back to her hometown to live with her parents. She ended the email with, "I hope someday you can forgive me." I deleted it without responding. I didn't care about Heather's problems or her apologies. She'd made her choices and now she was living with the consequences. That wasn't my problem anymore. Derek, on the other hand, was facing much bigger problems than a lost job and bruised ego. Gregory, still on my payroll to monitor the situation, reported that Derek's business was collapsing. Once his partners learned about the embezzlement, they'd forced him out. They were doing their own forensic audit to determine how much he'd stolen and whether they could recover any of it. "He's trying to sell his stake in the company," Gregory told me. "But no one wants to buy it. His reputation is toxic." "What about his personal finances?" I asked. "Disastrous," Gregory said. "He's got mounting legal fees, he owes you a settlement, and his income has disappeared. He'll probably have to declare bankruptcy." I absorbed this information without emotion. A few months ago, hearing that Derek was losing everything would have upset me. Now I felt nothing. "Keep monitoring," I told Gregory. "I want to make sure he follows through on the settlement terms." The grand reopening of the Grand Sterling Hotel was scheduled for a Friday night. We'd invited local politicians, business leaders, and media. The event would also raise money for a women's shelter, a cause I'd chosen deliberately. The night of the gala, I stood in my bedroom trying on 3 different dresses. I'd lost weight over the past few months without meaning to, and nothing fit quite right anymore. I finally settled on a simple black gown with a deep back and elegant lines. Rachel arrived to help me get ready, acting as my unofficial stylist and hype woman. "You look gorgeous," she said, zipping up my dress. "Derek is going to see photos of this event and regret every decision he ever made." "I don't care what Derek thinks," I said. "Yes, you do," Rachel said gently. "And that's okay. You can be over him and still want him to know what he lost." Maybe she was right. Maybe part of me did want Derek to see me succeed. Wanted him to see me happy and thriving without him. Wanted him to realize that I'd never needed him as much as he'd needed me. The gala was perfect. The hotel looked stunning, all lit up and sparkling. Guests filled the lobby and restaurant, drinking champagne and admiring the renovations. Local reporters took photos and conducted interviews. I posed for pictures with the mayor and gave a speech about empowering women to take control of their financial futures. "My aunt taught me that a woman should always have her own resources," I told the crowd. "She taught me to be independent, to be smart with money, and to never rely on anyone else for my security. I'm honored to carry on her legacy with this hotel and the other properties she left me." Everyone applauded. Flashbulbs went off. Someone from a business magazine asked if I'd be interested in being featured in their Women to Watch issue. I smiled and said yes and felt like a fraud. Because yes, I'd built something impressive. Yes, I was financially independent and successful. But inside, I still felt like the woman who'd been blindsided by her husband's betrayal. I still felt broken even if I didn't look it. The party went late into the night. When the last guest finally left, I kicked off my heels and walked through the quiet hotel in my bare feet. Glenn found me in the lobby, staring at the chandelier that had cost more than my first car. "You did it," he said. "You pulled off something incredible." "We did it," I corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this without your help and Aunt Caroline's vision." "Your aunt would be proud," Glenn said. "She always knew you had more strength than you showed." "I wish she could see this," I said softly. "She can," Glenn said. "Wherever she is, she can see what you've built." I went home that night, to my new home, a penthouse apartment I'd bought downtown, and sat on my balcony looking at the city lights. The divorce would be final next week. The hotel was a success. My business was growing. By all external measures, I should be happy. But I felt hollowed out, like someone had scooped out everything I used to be and left only a shell behind. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "You were amazing tonight. I'm so proud of you." I smiled and texted back, "Thanks for being there." But after I sent it, I sat in the dark and cried. Not for Derek, not for my marriage, but for the girl I used to be. The one who'd believed in fairy tales and happy endings. The one who'd thought love was enough. That girl was gone and I was still figuring out who I was without her. 3 months after the grand reopening, I stood in the conference room of my corporate office, looking at expansion plans spread across the table. We have offers from 3 different cities, my business manager explained, pointing to marked locations on a map. Boston wants a Grand Sterling. So does Chicago. And we have investors in Miami interested in partnering on a resort property. What's the timeline? I asked. If we move fast, we could break ground on at least 2 properties by next quarter. I studied the proposals, feeling that familiar mix of excitement and anxiety. My business was growing faster than I'd anticipated. The success of the Grand Sterling had attracted attention from investors and property owners across the country. Everyone wanted to partner with me to be part of the story of the woman who'd turned personal tragedy into business empire. The story they didn't see was the one I lived every day, waking up alone, working until I was too exhausted to think, filling every minute of my day so I didn't have time to feel the emptiness. Let's start with Boston, I decided. I want to fly out next week and see the properties in person. After the meeting, I returned to my private office and collapsed into my chair. My assistant brought me coffee and a stack of messages. One caught my eye, an email from Derek's lawyer. I opened it reluctantly. The divorce had been finalized 2 months ago. Derek had signed over everything he owed me and disappeared from my life. I hadn't heard from him since. The email was brief. Mr. Brooks is requesting a meeting with you. He has something he'd like to discuss in person. Please advise if you're willing to meet. I deleted it immediately. There was nothing Derek could say that I wanted to hear. That chapter of my life was closed. But the email bothered me all day. What did Derek want? Was he trying to renegotiate the settlement? Was he planning to beg for mercy on the embezzlement charges I hadn't filed? Or did he want something worse? Forgiveness, closure, a chance to explain himself? I called Patricia that evening. Derek's asking for a meeting. Absolutely not, Patricia said immediately. You don't owe him anything, least of all your time. I know, I said. But I'm curious. What could he possibly want? Does it matter? Simone, you've moved on. You've built an incredible business. Don't let him back in even for a conversation. She was right. I knew she was right. But the request nagged at me. That weekend, Rachel convinced me to go out. A real night out, not a business dinner or networking event. Just drinks with friends, no agenda. We ended up at a rooftop bar downtown, surrounded by other women from our old book club. They'd all heard about my divorce and my business success, and they spent the first hour asking questions. How did you do it? One asked. How did you go from housewife to hotel mogul in less than a year? I had help, I said. And a really good lawyer. And guts, Rachel added. Most people wouldn't have had the courage to do what Simone did. She could have just divorced Derek quietly and taken her settlement. Instead, she built an empire. I'm not trying to build an empire, I protested. I'm just trying to take care of myself. That's how empires start, another friend said, raising her glass. To Simone, the woman who turned heartbreak into a hospitality dynasty. We all drank, and I felt the warmth of friendship, of being surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. For the first time in months, I felt something close to happy. As the night wore on and the drinks flowed, the conversation turned more personal. Are you dating anyone? Someone asked. No, I said quickly. I'm not ready for that. It's been almost a year since Derek. I know how long it's been, I cut her off. But I'm not interested in dating right now. I'm focused on my business. You can't hide behind work forever, Rachel said gently. I'm not hiding. I'm just not interested. But that was a lie. The truth was more complicated. I was scared. Scared of trusting someone again. Scared of being vulnerable. Scared of repeating the same mistakes. I'd built walls around myself high and thick, and I had no interest in tearing them down. A few weeks later, I flew to Boston to look at properties. My team had arranged tours of 3 potential hotel sites, and I spent 2 days walking through empty buildings, imagining what they could become. On the last day, I was standing in what would be the lobby of a converted historic building when my phone rang. A known number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Ms. Walker? This is County General Hospital. We have a patient here who listed you as an emergency contact. Derek Brooks. My blood ran cold. What happened? He was in a car accident. He's stable, but he's asking to see you. I should have hung up. I should have said I wasn't coming. But instead, I heard myself say, I'll be there as soon as I can. I flew home that afternoon and went straight to the hospital. I told myself I was going out of obligation, nothing more. We'd been married for 10 years. Just because the marriage ended badly didn't mean I wanted him dead. The hospital was cold and sterile, smelling of disinfectant and sadness. A nurse directed me to Derek's room. I stood outside for a full minute, gathering my courage before pushing open the door. Derek was in the bed, banged up but awake. He had a cast on one leg and bandages on his arm. When he saw me, something flickered in his eyes. Relief, maybe, or surprise. "You came," he said, his voice hoarse. "The hospital called," I said, staying by the door. "What happened?" "Car accident. Some guy ran a red light." Derek gestured weakly at his injuries. "Could have been worse." "I'm glad you're okay," I said, and I meant it. I didn't love Derek anymore, but I didn't hate him enough to wish him physical harm. "I wasn't sure you'd come," Derek said. "After everything?" "I almost didn't," I admitted. "Why did you list me as your emergency contact?" "We're divorced." "You're the only family I have," Derek said quietly. "My parents are dead, my brother and I don't talk, and Heather?" He trailed off. "What about Heather?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. "She left. Moved back to her hometown, wants nothing to do with me." Derek laughed bitterly. "Turns out when you lose your money and your reputation, the young girlfriend doesn't stick around." "I'm sorry," I said automatically, though I wasn't sure if I meant it. "Are you?" Derek looked at me intently. "Because you have every right to be happy about my life falling apart. You earned that." "I'm not happy," I said. "But I'm not sad either." "Your life isn't my concern anymore, Derek." "I know," he said. "But I needed to see you. I needed to say I'm sorry." "For which part?" I asked. "The cheating? The lying? The embezzling? The trying to leave me with nothing?" Derek flinched. "All of it. I'm sorry for all of it. I was an idiot. I threw away the best thing in my life because I was selfish and stupid and—" "Stop," I cut him off. "I didn't come here for this. I don't want your apologies or your explanations. It's too late for that." "I know," Derek said. "But I needed you to know that I understand what I lost. I see you in the news, read about your success, and I realize that you never needed me. You were always strong enough on your own. I just made you think you weren't." "You're right," I said. "I didn't need you. But I loved you, Derek. I really loved you. And you broke that." "I know," he whispered. "And I'll regret it for the rest of my life." I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since walking into the room. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The confidence he used to carry was gone, replaced by something that looked like shame. "I hope you find a way to forgive yourself," I said. "Because I'm not going to forgive you. I'm not going to tell you it's okay or that I understand. What you did was wrong and you have to live with that." Derek nodded, tears in his eyes. "I know. I just wanted you to hear me say I'm sorry. Even if it doesn't change anything." "It doesn't," I confirmed. "Goodbye, Derek." I turned and walked out of the room without looking back. In the elevator, I let out a breath I'd been holding. Seeing Derek again had been harder than I expected, but it also gave me something I didn't know I needed: closure. Derek was truly sorry. But his sorry didn't fix anything. It didn't undo the hurt or erase the betrayal. It was just words, too little and far too late. When I got home, I called Patricia and told her about the hospital visit. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Tired," I said. "But also, free?" I think I needed to see him one more time to really understand that it's over. That part of my life is finished. "Good," Patricia said. "Now you can really move forward." And for the first time I believed I could. 1 year later. I stood in the lobby of the Grand Sterling Chicago, our newest property, watching the final preparations for the opening gala. This hotel had taken 9 months to renovate, and it was my masterpiece, a perfect blend of historic architecture and modern luxury. "Ms. Walker, the mayor's office just confirmed she'll be attending tonight," my assistant informed me. "Perfect," I said, checking my watch. "And the caterers?" "All set up. The photographer is here. The string quartet is warming up." I nodded, satisfied. After opening properties in Boston and Miami, I'd perfected the art of the grand opening. But Chicago felt different somehow, bigger, more significant. This was where I'd truly proved that my success wasn't a fluke. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel: "Good luck tonight. Wish I could be there." I smiled and texted back: "Miss you. Come visit soon." Rachel had gotten engaged 6 months ago to a man she'd met at a charity event. She was planning a spring wedding and I'd agreed to be her maid of honor. Life, it seemed, went on for everyone. Glenn appeared at my elbow, tablet in hand. "The New York Times reporter is here. She wants an interview before the event starts." "Give me 5 minutes," I said. I ducked into a private room to check my appearance. I'd bought a new dress for tonight, emerald green, elegant without being flashy. My hair was down in loose waves, and I wore the diamond earrings that had belonged to Aunt Caroline. I looked successful. I looked confident. And most importantly, I looked happy. The interview went well. The reporter asked about my business philosophy, my expansion plans, and how I'd managed to build such a successful company in just over a year. A lot of people credit you with revolutionizing the boutique hotel industry, she said. How does that feel? Surreal, I admitted. A year ago I was going through a divorce and figuring out who I was. I never imagined I'd be here. There are rumors that your ex-husband's betrayal was the catalyst for all this. Can you comment on that? I'd learned how to handle these questions. My divorce taught me that I was stronger than I thought. It showed me that I could build something meaningful on my own. But the success of my hotels isn't about revenge or proving a point. It's about creating beautiful spaces where people can make memories. The reporter seemed satisfied with that answer. After she left, I took a moment alone in the empty ballroom before guests arrived. My phone rang. Unknown number but local. I answered. Ms. Walker? This is Jennifer Chin from Foster Philanthropic Foundation. We'd like to discuss a potential partnership with your hotels to support women's entrepreneurship initiatives. I'm interested, I said. Send me the details and we'll set up a meeting. After hanging up, I thought about how far I'd come. From housewife to CEO. From betrayed to empowered. From broken to whole. The gala that night was a stunning success. Over 300 guests filled the hotel, including business leaders, politicians, and media from across the country. I gave a speech about female entrepreneurship and announced that I'd be establishing a foundation in Aunt Caroline's name to support women starting their own businesses. My aunt taught me that financial independence is the key to freedom, I told the crowd. I want to help other women achieve that same freedom, whether they're recovering from divorce, leaving bad situations, or simply pursuing their dreams. The applause was thunderous. After the speech, I was surrounded by people wanting to talk, to network, to congratulate me. It was overwhelming and exhilarating all at once. Late in the evening, I slipped away to the hotel's rooftop bar. Chicago spread out below me in a glitter of lights. I stood at the railing, champagne in hand, and let myself feel proud. Excuse me, are you Simone Walker? I turned to find a man standing a few feet away. He was tall, with kind eyes and a genuine smile. He wore a suit that said, successful professional, but not trying too hard. I am, I said. And you are? Thomas Richardson. I'm an architect. I actually bid on this project a year ago but didn't get it. I wanted to compliment you on what you've done with the space. It's incredible. Thank you, I said. Your firm was on our shortlist. The competition was tough. I can see why you went with the team you chose, Thomas said, gesturing at the space around us. They did beautiful work. Are you planning any more properties? We talked shop for 20 minutes. Construction challenges, design trends, the hospitality market. It was easy, comfortable conversation. Thomas was knowledgeable and funny, and he treated me like an equal, not like a curiosity or a tabloid story. I should get back to my guests, I said eventually, though part of me didn't want to. Of course, Thomas said. But before you go, would you be interested in having coffee sometime? I'd love to hear more about your expansion plans. I hesitated. Is this a business meeting or a date? Thomas smiled. Honestly, I'm not sure yet. Could it be both? I thought about it. A year ago, I would have said no immediately. Would have hidden behind my business and my walls and my fear. But standing there, looking at this kind stranger who made me laugh, I realized something. I didn't want to hide anymore. Coffee sounds nice, I said. Give me your card. We exchanged information and I returned to the party feeling lighter somehow. I wasn't looking for a relationship. I wasn't ready to trust someone with my heart again. But maybe, just maybe, I was ready to try being open to the possibility. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of congratulations and networking. When the last guest finally left around midnight, I kicked off my heels and walked through the quiet hotel one more time. Glenn found me in the lobby, looking at the chandelier that was the twin of the one in the original Grand Sterling. Another successful opening, he said. Thanks to you and the entire team, I replied. I couldn't do any of this without all of you. Your aunt would be so proud, Glenn said. I hope so, I said. I think about her every day. About what she taught me, what she gave me. This whole empire started because she believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. She gave you the resources, Glenn corrected. But you built this. Every decision, every risk, every success, that's all you. That night, I returned to my penthouse and stood on my balcony, looking out at the city. Tomorrow, I'd fly back to oversee operations at the other properties. Next week, I had meetings with investors about a potential expansion to the West Coast. Next month, I'd break ground on my charitable foundation. My life was full, busy, successful. And for the first time in over a year, I felt something close to joy. My phone buzzed with a message from Thomas. Thanks for the conversation tonight. Looking forward to that coffee. I smiled and texted back, me too. I wasn't the same woman I'd been when I discovered Derek's betrayal. I wasn't even the same woman who'd confronted him in that hotel lobby a year ago. I'd been forged in fire, shaped by pain and tempered by success. I was Simone Walker, founder and CEO of Walker Hospitality Group. I was a businesswoman, a philanthropist, and a survivor. I was someone who'd taken the worst moment of her life and turned it into something beautiful. Derek had thought he was the main character in our story, the successful businessman with the devoted wife. But it had never been his story. It was mine. And I'd written myself a happy ending. I went inside, closed the balcony door, and started planning my next move. There were hotels to build, women to help, and a whole future to create. The past was behind me. The future was wide open. And I couldn't wait to see what came next.